So I've already done some like weird versions of Universal monsters. Like I've done the deranged Draculas, and I've done the freaky Frankensteins. So I figured it's time to do some messed up mummies. So we are about to unwrap, 10 of these bombs of cinematic confusions. But will it be a fun journey, or will we be cursed? Number 10. We'll start with the cleverly titled, I guess, Mummy Dearest from 2021, which kicks off with Buddy Revell and a girl with an overbearing mother, and she works for Eddie without his cruisers, and he damages her back, and she's bound to a wheelchair. She moves in with Autumn and her awkward boyfriend, and holy crap, the sound in this film is pretty terrible.
I just wear this way. It just makes me feel more comfortable.
And this guy, I guess, just doesn't like shirts or pants. And a lot of this film was post-dubbed.
I'll throw that away for you.
Is someone here?
And there's a hilarious scene where the neighbor saves her from choking, and for some reason she attacks him and just squirts massage oil in his eyes repeatedly, and it's comedy gold. But the movie plays it completely straight with overly dramatic music.
Stop! I'll do it again!
Frank acts literally insane all the time, and Scarlett tries to talk to her daughter about it, but he's cute. And she tells her mom this while magically not matching up with how her lips are moving.
You're trying to help by telling me I've made another bad choice, and I don't need it. I don't need your help with who I'm friends with, or who I work for, or who I sleep with.
And then, oh boy, Tara Reid? The Borat guy? The one and only Incredible freaking Hulk? What the hell? I guess Frank's mom and grandpa always dressed up in Egyptian clothing, like, all the time, and his grandpa accidentally killed his mom, who apparently had really thin blood. Like, have you seen real blood before? They bandage mom up and bury her in the yard, and Angel hurts Frank's hands, and listen to this reaction, which in no way was intended to be hilarious. But it absolutely is. Mom starts to unravel way too slowly, and at about an hour in, we finally get a mummy, finally, and this is the music they give it. Like it's not super dramatic. It's a spirit Halloween costume, my dudes. And oh man, this is a whole lot of nothing. There's some pretty hysterical bits here and there, none of them intentional. And I'm curious as to why every bit of Anna Sherman's dialogue was ADR'd.
Claiming to help while only really thinking about yourself.
Like, I'm kind of hoping that she did the whole role in like an exaggerated Italian accent, but then when they got to the editing phase, they were just like, nah, do it regular. I can't really recommend it, even though it does have fun stuff like Scarlett trying to convince her legs to move and then smacking them. But for a movie called Mummy Dearest, there is a severe lack of mummy in this one. There's a severe lack of a lot of things, to be honest. Number 9. Well, hopefully we will find more mummy action in 2014's American Mummy, which starts out with people out in the deserts of New Mexico, and they find a hidden cave and death. And then 12 weeks later, there's now a dig that's comprised of a bunch of students. IMDb has this movie listed as having a $3 million budget, and yeah, that's not correct. And they found an artifact in the ground, an Aztec sacrifice that's somehow in New Mexico. A couple with some ulterior motives use a dagger and do a blood sacrifice, which includes, I guess, making out with the mummy, which causing her to puke up green and die, which, yeah, you stick your tongue in a corpse that's been buried for like a few centuries, that's to be expected.
She comes back as a sort of zombie and starts attacking, and you know things are looking grim once again because we're about an hour in and there's no mummy. I mean, there is a mummy in a cave on the ground and its curse or whatever is affecting things, but damn it, I want to see a thing wrapped in bandages walking around, and I'm 1 2/3 movies into this video and we've gotten like 30 seconds of that so far. Instead, here we get more zombie kind of things and curse stuff, and again, there is absolutely zero chance that this cost $3 million. That number is just made up. Chaos finally ensues in like the last 15 minutes as the curse spreads, and you know, I picked these movies based on the fact that they had the word mummy in the titles, and these are the box covers for these movies, and yet, yeah, no mummies. Number 8. Next up is 2019's Mummy Reborn, which starts off with a Kanye West quote of all things, and damn well better have a mummy in it. And yes, 3 minutes in and we have a full-on, bandage-wearing, decayed face, head-crushing mummy. Thank heavens. This one has Tiffany Ellen Robinson, who I remember seeing in The Bad Nun from my Conjuring ripoff video, and she's taking care of her mentally handicapped brother. She works in an antique store that's closing, and she discovers that there's an amulet that's worth a ton of money, and they make a plan to steal it since she's in a really tough spot. They get it with the help of a couple of accomplices and open the tomb and move and break the amulet, which looks like a brand new prop, not a relic from thousands of years ago. And did I mention that Tina's brother is probably the least nuanced performance of a handicap I've ever seen? It's rough. Like, the actor's only awareness of mentally challenged individuals came from stand-up comics doing offensive impressions of them. They unironically use the old record skip sound effect.
No, look!
And the mummy starts by killing one off, but then putting his wife's soul into her. She magically shows up in Egyptian garb, and I should point out that their outfits are basically Halloween costumes, straight out of the bag. And in fact, the mummy looks the same, like his bandages are all brand new without any aging whatsoever. There's a great bit with Jerky Duncan running through the forest, and this is how he trips. And there's a bunch of people in the woods doing some weed and really tripping out, man. Like someone wrote this movie that has never ever met a pot smoker. And for some reason, I guess there's a bunch of guns around, and it's like occasionally this movie livens up.
Hey, man.
Luke.
Tina. Max.
Luke.
Tina. Max.
Luke.
Max. Tina.
Hey.
Oh, Max.
Tina.
And I wish that it had embraced this goofiness a bit earlier. Like, this is an hour in now, and up until this point, it's been fairly straightforward. It has not been a silly movie. And then, out of nowhere, it gives you stuff like this.
I can't understand what he's saying.
Can't you just read the subtitles?
And now I'm really confused because they do this whole slow-mo Ave Maria fight, and all of a sudden I'm liking this and I'm having a good time. And hey, Mummy Reborn, where you been? And yeah, this is fine. The whole first hour is pretty predictable standard stuff, and I don't understand what happened and why they suddenly decided to spice things up in the final act, when I'm sure a substantial portion of the viewing audience may have shut it off already. But oh well, I'm gonna call it Backyard Malignant, because it's this kind of slow burn beginning and simple story that ends with a new metal fight scene with electro punches. And don't we all need a little more of that nowadays? Number 7. Now let's go to 2021's Mummy Resurgence, which is from ITN, so I have a bad feeling here. And I guess this is also called Rise of the Mummy, and holy crap, it's the same mummy suit from Mummy Reborn. Was this like literally a costume in a bag, or did they know the guys from that movie and just use their outfit when they were done. The mummy is taken to a lab where this lady is, who appears to be a staple of backyard English horror since she also appeared in Witches of Amityville Academy, Bad Nun 2, and Amityville Scarecrow. So there's a group of archaeology students who are going to study the mummy and this ancient book, which they just leave with them and they're allowed to look through without wearing gloves and without wearing masks, I guess. At least when they have them checking out the mummy, they're wearing masks, but then are constantly pulling them down. One of the students steals the mummy's necklace medallion, which wakes it up, and I swear this is a sequel to Mummy Reborn. It's the same suit, the same MO, same $50 budget. It even ends up making some of the dead women its bride minions. And let's see, it's a British production, and we have someone who needs information about the creature they're encountering, so you know what that means. Yup, Sean C. Phillips, apparently. The mummy's trying to collect souls, and no one can leave because they're stuck in a time loop. Like they keep calling it a time loop, but it's more like time is just frozen. And oh boy, this is just a sort of repeat of Mummy Reborn, except it doesn't go off the rails in the finale. I guess in the long run, I'm happy that there's a mummy in it at all, even if it's the same damn mummy that I've already seen. Number 6. Next up is 2021's The Mississippi Mummy, which starts like this.
Hello. Can I help you?
Yes, I'm Angeline Douglas. I'm actually here for one of the tours.
Yeah, Mr. Rothschild's expecting you. Sure
Great.
smell nice today.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime. You can come up here anytime to see us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Come on. There's Mr. Rothschild.
I am 30 seconds in and I'm already flabbergasted.
What's this wig? Is this scripted? I don't know, but I can tell right now that this is going to be a trip. Angeline here is trying to take a tour of an old mansion and is menaced by these two guys who are barely holding back smiles. And this, I'm assuming, is mostly improvised and all in one take, and they kill her. A private eye shows up looking for her, and it's Trey Drama here, and I don't know him, but for a production like this, he's actually like pretty solid. Like, he stands out as an actual actor here.
Hey, a security guard is not a lowly profession. At least you're keeping people safe.
Well, that's the point, man. You didn't stay in the military either.
Hell no. Politics got too messy. You know me.
And this film was made by Curtis Everett, and according to IMDb, he's directed 72 films, most of them in the past 3 years. And guys, I think I just found a new obsession, because based on just the first 10 minutes of this movie, I want to watch all of them. Like look at this. I don't know what's going on here, but they walk into a room and this is what they see.
Oh, God.
I think it's supposed to be blood splattered everywhere, but it's clearly a crappy effect because they couldn't put actual blood on their location. But I don't know if it was an effect fail that they faded it in. Angeline is alive.
Smelled your perfume.
I'm not wearing any. It must have been my shampoo, I guess.
And there's a group that's trying to restore the Confederacy, and they demonstrate their plan with these shockingly low-res images. The Mississippi Mummy reveals himself, and he looks like this. He's kept in place by the symbol of the Eye of Horus, and they shoot him hysterically.
Your bullets do nothing to me.
Gee, I wonder why.
He enchants Angeline, and I love that his makeup stops at his ears, like almost. And the whole Confederacy storyline just ends without ever crossing into the main plot, and I use that word loosely. And this is only 47 minutes long, and it's never as silly as you want it to be, but yeah, It's pretty silly, and it's yet another movie with mummy in the title without really having one in the movie, but at least the box art is fairly undeceptive. And now,
I think now you'll have to excuse me because I have like 71 other Curtis Everett movies to track down.
Number 5. Let's see if we can get back on track with 2014's The Mummy Resurrected, I guess also known as The Dark City Resurrected, and was directed by Patrick McManus and claims to be based on Bram Stoker's Legend of the Mummy. And McManus's only other film is Dracula Reborn, which was also a take on a Stoker novel, and I featured that movie in my Weird Dracula list. It's the one with the weird Tom Cruise stand-in vampire. We have Margaret here reuniting with her father for the first time in 20 years, and she's part of a team of archaeologists that only accepted applications for hot girl scientists, I guess. And you know, one of the things I most remember about Dracula Reborn is that they seemed to have things shot on a green screen for no reason, and the same seems to go here as well. They find the mummy's tomb and end up trapped inside, but find the tomb and open it. Soon enough, the ceilings are caving in, and then there's a mummy, an actual, real deal, rotted mummy. This is actually the first time on this entire list that I'm seeing a mummy in the way that I expected to. Old, rotted dude with a dirty ancient bandages in a tomb. We made it! Its touch has pretty negative effects, and he looks cool and has some bandage powers, but man, it's slow. Not the mummy, it's slow as well though, but the movie's slow. It's just kind of milling about a tomb, and then at around close to an hour, they go, oh yeah, it says mummy in our title, and they do deliver premium mummy, but I think I showed the majority of his appearances here in the clips, but this is not bad. It's got some cool stuff happening every once in a while. It's just too long in between those whiles. Number 4. Also from 2014, there was Day of the Mummy. And what the hell happened in 2014 that we got all these low-budget mummy knockoffs? There weren't any mainstream mummy movies that year to piggyback off of, and yet we got this one, Mummy Resurrected, and American Mummy, all in the same year. We have William McNamara as Jack, an adventurer who's hired by Murtaugh here to find an ancient relic, a very particular diamond buried with a cursed king. He assembles a team and oh no! We take on a found footage format through a pair of camera glasses, which means that it's all first-person point of view, with picture-in-picture Glover appearing occasionally for commentary. So, what that means is that they got Glover and McNamara's names all over the promotional materials in real big letters on the box art, but they hired Danny for one day, sat him down at a desk and a green screen, had him read a handful of lines, and he was done. They probably had McNamara for around the same time, since his face barely appears on screen. So they had him for like 1 or 2 day tops, got his face in there enough to convince you that he's the character you're seeing, and then had hand doubles for the entire rest of the film. They find the tomb and encounter trouble with the locals, and then a cave-in. There's then a bunch of wandering around in caves, and we are close to an hour into this and still no mummy at all, and I'm losing hope. Things get grim.
I'm getting you out of here, and we're gonna get you a new arm, you hear me?
Yep, gonna head right down to the arm store, just pick one of those up.
The mummy finally shows up 1 hour in, and it's pretty cool looking, although they use one of my least favorite plot devices ever, which seems to occur a ton in low-budget found footage, and that's the faulty camera that constantly cuts out and glitches, giving them plenty of excuses to edit the footage. And in case you haven't guessed it by now, this is pretty terrible, almost unwatchable, mainly because, again, as I've said with these found footage things over and over again, if you're gonna do it, you have to be really damn convincing and execute your film perfectly to feel like the real thing. And no surprise here, that does not happen. The performances are never real, and it's just dull and distracting, but at least it actually has a mummy in it. Number 3. maybe we'll have some more luck with 2015's Frankenstein versus the Mummy, and why not? I've already done weird Frankenstein movies, so let's get a little of him in there too, sure. And this was written and directed by Damien Leone, who made All Hallows Eve and both Terrifier movies, and Dr. Frankenstein is here, and he's dating another professor who teaches Egyptology. She recently discovered a mummy, and they just have him on a slab, which I'm not an archaeologist or something, but I'm pretty sure ancient artifacts like this are kept in more contained areas because exposure to air and such will just destroy them. Meanwhile, Frankie is paying a guy to collect body parts for him, and this guy awakens the mummy as he touches it without any gloves. And come on, man, even I know that skin oils are gonna destroy that thing. And oh my god, I just looked at the runtime, and this movie is 1 hour and 55 minutes long! Frankenstein versus the Mummy is nearly 2 hours of runtime? I guess I'm paying for including the 47-minute Mississippi Mummy. But I guess I should count my blessings because according to IMDb, this was originally intended as a found footage movie, so little blessings.
Little blessings.
Frank needs a brain to finish his creation and accidentally kills his lackey who was trying to blackmail him, so he uses his brain? How on earth is this a good idea? This guy's a teacher? Maybe the classes he teaches is Terrible Ideas 101. I want to point out that this is about 45 minutes in. He's just now trying to bring his creature to life, and the mummy is still laid out on a slab. The editor in me is screaming. Gauze Guy finally gets up, and it's a pretty sweet suit, and he falls in love with Nyla, and the monster also rises.
It's alive. It's alive!
He's sporting a Ricky Rackman hairdo, and there's a lot of melodrama emphasis on the mellow. The monster gets loose and starts killing, and hey, what do you know? It remembers when it was alive. Who could have predicted that? He goes after Nyla, and so does the mummy, but it takes until 1 hour and 42 minutes into a 1 hour and 55-minute movie for Frankenstein and the mummy to meet. And there may have been a handful of fun gore moments strewn throughout, but they don't fit the whole tone of the movie, which takes itself so painfully serious. Far, far more serious than a movie called Frankenstein versus the Mummy should be. Number 2, maybe this one, it's 2019's Mummy Rebirth, which sounds a lot like Mummy Resurrected and also Mummy Reborn, but let's hope it's not. It starts very Brendan Fraser mummy style with a bald Egyptian and his lover being killed, and they're prophesied to come back and destroy the world. There's some treasure hunters in conveniently lit caves, like they're a tourist attraction or something. But with this guy there, you'd think these caves were, uncharted. I also love that the spider webs are very clearly and blatantly those fake ones you get from the dollar store. They get double-crossed, but then find an ancient tomb there, which of course has a mummy in it. And I'm saying of course as if it's obvious that there would be a mummy there, since this movie is called Mummy Resurrected, but with this list, it's a crapshoot. There's an inscription on it which they read aloud.
Never read things out loud! How have people not learned this yet?
Multiple mummies arise, and it's very clear that they were inspired by the mainstream mummy films here, what with the design of the characters and even the general storyline. But there's also these really convincing CGI creatures here. Everyone's after this stone, which will allow you to control the reanimated dead, and the mummy costume is a very obvious mask. And yeah, this whole film appears to be shot in a set of caverns. What they don't shoot down below, they seem to shoot in their little museum and gift shop, so really maxing out access to a location. The mummy's trying to get his hands on a book because doesn't that sound familiar? And oh, the acting here.
Not today, Sandman.
And this one, like so many others on this list, is just pretty dull. It's kind of amusing to see them try to rip off a blockbuster on about 50 cents, but there's just not enough interesting happening. But it does get pretty crazy in the last 10 minutes when they suddenly decide that kaiju are in the cards. Number 1. Our final stop on this journey better damn well deliver, and it's 2000's The Mummy theme park. And please have a mummy, and please don't put me to sleep. It's from Italy and was from Alvaro Passeri, who made 1994's Plankton, a movie that is completely, certifiably insane, so I expect goofiness here. We start in Egypt as a curse is unleashed on a bunch of fresh-from-the-bag Spirit Halloween Egyptian costumes, and then a week later, people are working. I think these guys appear to be pretending to work. Like, have you ever seen anyone use a shovel before, fellas? There's an archaeologist here and this sheikh. I mean, look at this guy. What is this costume? Who looked at this and said, oh yeah, this looks authentic. This is pure Egypt right here. They open the tomb even though it warns of a curse, and then cuts to 6 months later and a photographer is hired. And what the hell is going on here?
May I know what you want the photographs of?
Well, that's highly confidential, but they must be sensational.
Well, personally, I'm afraid I have commitments here. I never leave the studio these days. But my best photographer, Danny Flynn, is available.
Oddly enough, as weird as this whole thing is, check out this frightening headshot just lurking back here. Oh yeah, that's worth posting up. And whoa, this is just nuts. They've, I guess, made a theme park on the dig site in like 6 months? There's a phone up on the wall that just says, Mummy Theme Park. But even though it's a theme park, they're feeding a guy to a snake there? What is happening? Daniel and his assistant Julie go to cover the park, which is making animatronic mummies using some human parts in them. Like, is that ethical? They tour the park and the curse is unleashed, and oh yeah, here we go. Things start getting wild with some really cool transformation effects. But then these custom mummy theme park beer mugs, which I now want. So yeah, keep in mind that this is a theme park that I guess also has a harem in it. I guess this is where I tell you that we're now 45 minutes into the movie, but here's the difference. Not much plot-wise has happened. Basically, we find out that there's a mummy theme park, and I've had a tour of said theme park, and that's it. But it's been so weird and surreal that I didn't mind it.
Take notes, other movies.
Soon, the animatronic mummies are starting fights, and this is very magical, but not as hysterical as this mummy breaking loose.
The mummy's broken loose.
I love this. I love every minute of it, even if some of them are pretty dull. There's just so many fun models, wonky green screens.
Damn, Mummy!
Mummy's obsessed with boobs.
He's checking out your breasts.
And this is a Josh movie, 100%. This made this whole garbage list worth it. The effects are so goofy, like this skeleton. And look, I'm not gonna say that this doesn't wear out its welcome after a while, since it just straight up refuses to have a plot or anything, but I was pretty entertained throughout.
Oh, and one last thing. Here's the poster for the Brendan Fraser Mummy, as well as that of the third Mummy film. See these? Well, here's the poster for 6 of these other movies. Like, throw a big old mummy head at the top looking in no way like it does in the actual film. Maybe some pyramids down below, even if they don't appear in the actual film. Maybe a few of the actors looking in no way like they do in the actual film. And then just orange the hell out of the whole thing. Done. So there you have it. 10 mummy movies from the crypt. Hopefully we do not have the curse now. Yeah, and these were mostly not good. Obviously some very cheap ones in here, but there was a couple of gems. There's a couple of enjoyable watches, but for the most part, these were not that fun. But yeah, if you know of other mummy movies that are just like about the mummy, let me know. Put it down in the comments below. Obviously I know the classics and everything like that, but on this particular video, I really wanted to go with more modern takes on this whole thing. And yeah, most of them are not good. But let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button. If you like what you see on the channel, subscribe to it. And also, please share it out to your friends. If you want to subscribe to the Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/movietimelines, and you can help support this channel like these guys over here do. And I thank them very much for doing so. And I will see you very shortly for another great video.